Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome from the short break. And before we zoom into the next session, please, I would like us to have a more organized setting arrangement, just as we had for the first session. So please, let's all try and come to this side. And if there's an empty seat in front of you, kindly do well to fill it as we prepare our minds for the next session. Please, we are moving. I'm not seeing anyone moving yet. I would also like to acknowledge our participants because you are part of the reason why this program is successful. We appreciate your patience and your calm in still trying to stay with us. We'd also appreciate our partners. We have the Africa Transformational Project. They say they are transforming the African in our lifetime. We have Ghana Tourism Authority. We also partners with the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Asana Pay, Beyond the Return, and the Grow, Unite, Build Africa. That's the GUBA Diaspora Network. We are still reminded that the theme for today's program is still achieving the impossible, because we believe that so long as you set your mind towards something, even if it hasn't existed before, so long as you set your mind towards it, it's very possible that it can be achieved. We already had sessions on digital transformation. We've had conversations around opportunities under the AfCFTA, and then we've also had an extensive one on Beyond the Return initiative here in Ghana. So I would like to urge you that as we continue the program today, just psych your mind and embrace yourself that there's a lot to take away after everything is said and done. So without further ado, let's just set the stage for more conversations and innovation in the second session. And doing us the honors, our first speaker is actually an award-winning content creator who has made her mark in the world of media. And she's widely recognized as a social media manager for the Ghana's Beyond Ghana Return and the Year of Return campaigns, both of which are under the Ghana Tourism Authority, just as we had conversations around already. Our speaker is also an experienced TV host. She's a producer, she writes, she's a public speaker, and she's also the author of the critically acclaimed book, Your Essential Guide on Moving to Ghana. How many of us have seen such a book around? Oh, no one. Okay, I can see 1, 2 hands. 3, 4, okay, so you want to look it up, right? And then she works on a documentary, she's a documentary film producer for projects such as Chance the Rapper and Vic Mensa's Black Star Line Festival documentary, which featured Pan-African artists from around the world, and this has actually solidified her reputation in the industry. She was also part of the production team for Christian Amapo's Love and Sex Around the World, Accra episode. Our speaker was also a featured speaker for the TEDx Africa, where she delivered a powerful talk called The Power of Digital Media, which was aimed at bridging the gap between Africa and the diaspora. Through her impressive social media presence, particularly her YouTube channel, you would want to look it up as well. She has impacted tens of thousands of people, and this has inspired many to either visit or relocate permanently to Ghana. I think it's something worth applause. And Last but not least, over the last decade, our speaker has had an impressive track record in working in Ghana, and her work has contributed immensely towards changing the narrative of Africa. So without wasting much time, with a round of applause, let's welcome Miss Ivy Prosper, an award-winning content creator. She has her print and her marks everywhere across the country and around the globe. Let's keep it for her. Let's keep giving her all the applause. You're welcome, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Listening to her read my bio, I'm like, ooh, who's that? Who is that? So it's just a reminder of some of the things that I've done. Thank you for having me today. I'm going to put my glasses on. I need them to read my presentation. I know due to the time, I do have to limit how much I wanted to talk about today. I don't have a presentation, so you're going to have to focus on my voice. All protocols observed, as I wasn't here earlier to know who is in the audience today. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I am very happy to be here. It's a privilege to have been asked to be a speaker at today's event. As many of you Ghanaians who may not know who I am or may have never interacted with me, you can hear from my voice that I didn't grow up in Ghana. I was born here, and my parents took me to Canada when I was 2 years old, just before my second birthday. Tema born, Canada raised, and back in Ghana now. But it was in 1998 that I arrived at Kotoka International Airport on my own without my parents for the first time coming back to Ghana, that I had an experience that really left a mark on me. It was an amazing feeling to be welcomed home by family members who I didn't know. The last time I saw them was when I was around 7, 8 years old. And to have them embrace me like somebody they just saw last week was a fantastic feeling. And I can tell you that the people who are of African descent, I know many of you have heard much about the Year of Return campaign where people have come to Ghana beyond the return as well. It's the same feeling that those people have when they come to Ghana and they feel welcomed. It's like being welcomed to a family that they didn't know, but the family treats them like they know them. So it's a testament to Ghanaians, so you should give yourselves a round of applause for being a welcoming people. So that experience was one of the best in my life. When I was in Ghana in '98, I was introduced to hip life music. People like Reggie Rockstone used to hang out with my cousin, and I went and bought the cassette tape, Plan Bang, at the market. And yes, it was a cassette tape. That's how old I am. I look younger than I am. It was a cassette tape. And so it showed me the level of entrepreneurship that Ghanaians have at that time. People were out hustling in the market. They were selling cassette tapes, and some people were selling records. People were selling so many different things, and I just saw the way that the spirit of the African at that time, of how people really were pushing to be able to sell, to take care of themselves and their families. The irony is, my parents left Ghana with myself in pursuit of new opportunities. And the irony is me coming back in pursuit of new opportunities. Because Africa is a place that people are coming to seek opportunities in business, in careers, in life. For decades, the African dream has been finish school, get into university, go abroad. And then everybody's like, yes, they've gone abroad, they've made it. And then they don't want to come back. They feel like they have to stay there to be successful. But now we're living in a time where people who are leaving are coming back to find success here in Africa. Because we are identifying that there are potentials that are here in Ghana and other African countries. You may not see it and not realize it, but there's so many potentials here if we're willing to build from the ground up. Whatever you do today in your business, is building the foundation for the future. I think that we have to change our mindset and realize that success doesn't happen overnight. It is something that takes time. I'm sure many of you here have heard of Louis Vuitton, right? Or Chanel, or Gucci. All of those are brands that started from the ground up. If you are trying to build a legacy, you have to think about what it takes. So, for instance, Louis Vuitton, the company's over 150 years old. Started by a young man who was homeless, and he started his business making suitcases. As time went on and he was getting sick, and when he passed away, the business was passed on to someone else who took it over and continued. That person's gone, someone else takes it over, it continues. That's how they build a legacy in Europe and in America, is the family members take over and continue the legacy. We have to start having more legacy thinking when we create our businesses. Even the simplest things we don't realize could have the potential of being a big business. Somebody may have their mother's making kenkey on the corner, and you're just like, oh, my mom's just a kenkey seller. She's not just a kenkey seller. You should be like, my mother makes the best kenkey. People are queuing to buy her kenkey. When my mother gets old, I need to learn how she's making her kenkey. How is she connecting with the community? Maybe I can take over. Someone else in the family can take over, and we can create this to be a big business that could eventually be franchised. How do you think KFC became KFC? It was started as Kentucky Fried Chicken, a guy frying chicken, going wherever he could, selling his fried chicken, and now it's become a multi-billion-dollar business with locations all around the world. And now they're expanding in Africa because Africa is the next frontier. They've already maxed out America, they've maxed out Canada, Europe. So Africa is where it seems like every other month I'm seeing a new KFC open. Another KFC again? So I'm using those examples because those are examples of businesses that started from the bottom and became what they are today. So when you have to have less individualist thinking and more legacy. I am in Ghana because I want to help change the narrative of Africa. I know that some of the things I would like to see, I am not going to see in my lifetime. But I know that the next generation can continue, and it may be seen maybe 100 years from now. But the groundwork begins now. Because I could easily pack my suitcase and go back to Canada and make more money in a week than I do here in a whole month. But I'm here because I want to make a difference. Now, if you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, you're doing business in Ghana, what I wanted to touch on quickly, because I know time is running, is the fact that there's a lot of people from the diaspora coming to Ghana, and then you have Ghanaians. We have to learn how to work together. One of the things that I want Ghanaians to understand is people coming from the diaspora don't have a full understanding all the time of the cultural nuances that exist in Ghana. It's important that we find ways to teach them some of these cultural nuances that people may not know. For example, in my book that she mentioned, Your Essential Guide on Moving to Ghana, available on Amazon, in the book, I talk about simple things like the shaking hands from right to left. Somebody who doesn't come from a Ghanaian family or doesn't know Ghanaian culture will go somewhere and do something that will offend somebody. And if you offend a Ghanaian, you're finished. Like, seriously, you're finished. If you offend a Ghanaian, they'll be like, hey, you know what? Yesterday, this person didn't greet me, so I don't respect him. And if they feel there's no respect because you didn't greet, they will treat you that way, and they will tell other people to treat you that way. And they might smile in your face, but they will make sure that you don't get ahead in the way you want to because they feel offended by that simple gesture that you may not have even known, and you're like, I didn't even know. So Ghanaians, take the time to teach the diaspora. And then the diaspora, we should take time to learn and embrace some of the cultural differences that make Ghanaians who they are. So there's always those things that you have to think about when doing business in Ghana. Now, we must also take the time to educate and enlighten the young people because they're the next generation. And Ghanaians, take the time to also listen when we come with ideas. Because when we come with ideas from abroad, we're not coming saying that we think what you're doing is terrible. We're just sometimes saying this might be a better way to do it to get things done more efficiently. And approach it as you're learning from each other. Because one of the challenges that I experienced, I remember 2011, 2012, 2013, when I was like navigating Ghana, I would have people say things like, "Fawabroche semko." I didn't know about Ghana. And it's like, well, when you tell us to take what we've learned from abroad and dash it away, it's like you telling us to just leave. But we've come because we want to share the knowledge, and then it just feels discouraging, like, okay, why am I sharing my ideas? Nobody wants to hear it. So Ghanaians, we also have to learn to embrace. And with me, being a Ghanaian, growing up in Canada, my parents often taught us a lot of things about Ghanaian culture. So I had a little bit of knowledge of things that helped me to have a softer landing. But of course, there's things that I learned the hard way. Hey, whew. Things I learned the hard way. Well, I think one of the hardest lessons, and in case there's any diaspora in here who doesn't know, I went to a chief's palace with my uncle because there was a land dispute and we had to go and discuss it. And I sat down and I did this. I did this. Ghanaians know what I'm oh, the chief's linguist came by and he went like this to my leg and he was like, "Why are you doing that?" And I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. And then my uncle was like, "Oh no, oh, I didn't tell you." And then I was like, oh. So now whenever I'm in a chief's palace, I'm so like paranoid and keeping my legs straight to make sure I don't cross my legs, because crossing your legs shows that you're offending somebody. You're offending the chief, especially depending on which way your legs are crossed. So I want to just quickly talk about the African Continental Free Trade Area. It's an opportunity for all of us to take advantage of, to try to cross borders, doing business in West Africa and other parts of Africa. The road to success is not linear, especially in the context of Africa, where culture and business is intertwined in business practices. So I won't go too much in depth in all of the points I wanted to mention, but number one for doing business is cultural understanding, which I touched on. In Ghana, networking and relationship building is very important. Number three, understanding government regulations, familiarizing yourself with legal requirements of doing business in Ghana. Number four, adaptability. Ghana's business environment can be quite fluid, and I say, you have to be flexible. Time is one of the top ones, because when we come from abroad, we're used to things being rigid with time, but in Ghana, things are quite fluid, is what I like to say. Communication, being able to communicate with each other, because when it comes to speaking English, we all speak English in Ghana, but we have different ways of interpreting ways things are said. So learning to communicate and then slowing down for those of us coming from abroad, because sometimes I've been told I speak too fast by Ghanaians and I have to slow down, and also the way we pronounce certain words. I used to host a TV show and they would always make me retake things because I would start speaking like a Canadian, saying things like simple words like hospital. Americans and Canadians, we pronounce the T like it's a D. We'll say hospital. And they said I had to say hospital for the Ghanaian audience. So simple things like that. And then even the phrases we use, Ghanaians will say, why are you using the slang? You're slanging the words. And you're like, no, I'm not. So learning to communicate with each other is very important, especially when you go to the hospital. Lord have mercy. I almost got into a situation because of pronunciation. I needed a tetanus shot. I said tetanus shot. And they were like, I don't know what I'm like, I need a tetanus shot, I need a tetanus shot. And then I wrote it on a piece of paper, and then the lady was like, oh, tetanus. Why are you slanging the word? And I was like, thank God I wrote it down, because they might have given me the wrong needle, wrong injection. So communication is very important when we speak to each other. And then market research, understanding your audience when you're selling your product or service. Take the time to know each other, because we do have cultural differences between ourselves. Quickly before I go, as she said, I'm the social media manager for Ghana's Beyond the Return campaign, and I also did Year of Return, so I was responsible for a lot of content, still a lot of content that gets posted and marketing Ghana to the world. My first video that went viral was a video I did of Steve Harvey when he came to Ghana, and then it was just like, boom, from there, everything was just like snowball effect with content about Ghana, which was a really great experience, knowing that the work I was doing was being shared with the world, and people were noticing Ghana, the country that I came from, that I never expected would one day be the hot spot for tourism, the hot spot for coming to have vacations and different experiences in Africa, a real gateway. Because when I was growing up in Canada, it was not. People thought everybody here is starving, everybody here is suffering, everybody has disease, and doesn't have proper houses, you don't have cars, you don't have shoes. And it just boggles my mind, you know? Even as recent as 4 years ago, I was on a WhatsApp video call with a friend, and he wanted to see the environment, so I was showing him. He was in the US, and he's like, oh, I didn't know they wear jeans in Ghana. And I was like, huh? I was like, well, what did you expect? He's like, well, I don't know, I just didn't expect that. I just, you know? So there's a lot of misconceptions that I experienced growing up, and it was embarrassing to tell people you were African when I was growing up. Because people made fun of you if you were from Africa. It was like you were the bottom of the barrel. And now some of those same people, like I went back to visit a couple of months ago, and even last year when I went to visit, all of a sudden, the same people who had no thought of Africa are like, oh, Ivy, you know, I'm thinking about going to Ghana. And I'm like, really? I see, okay, sure. Never thought you would say that. Even right now, somebody that, a friend of my sister's is in Ghana, and we would have never expected, you know? So it's really, really great to see. And Ghanaians, kudos to you for being welcoming people. Because people can come and decide not to come again, but people are coming, and they're coming, and they're coming, and they're coming. For example, this is a statistic that will show you. It used to be, it was 100, we went to the US Embassy, it used to be 100 visas, applications to come to Ghana every day. Now it's up to 300 applications a day. So there's overwhelm. So that shows you the increased interest in Ghana. So let us love our country, share our country, and let everybody know through what you share in your social media how beautiful Ghana really is to live, to work, and to do business. Thank you. And I know I went over time.
Thank you so much. Please, let's keep uploading here. And that was Miss Ivy Prosper speaking on the theme Business Opportunities in Ghana. So the next theme for today's session is on the challenges and solutions for diasporans who necessarily want to do business in Ghana. And doing us the honors, we have the founder and chairman, Run Free Technology. That's a mobile application and software development company that has its headquarters in the United States. Run Free also has operations in Ghana and Senegal through international license, and our speaker has an extensive background in medical logistics, where he oversaw the timely and efficient transportation of blood and plasma for the American Red Cross. Our speaker was also responsible for the daily distribution of donated blood and plasma across the United across several US cities so that patients undergoing surgery and blood transfusions would have life-saving blood for their procedures. Come on, this worth an applause. So prior to the run-free technology, our speaker worked in the music industry, where he and his stable of songwriters wrote songs for major label artists like Mary J. Blige, Alicia Keys, Charlie Wilson, and Keisha Cole. He has won 3 Grammy Awards and received several nominations. Wow. Our speaker entered the entertainment, marketing, and advertising world at the age of 27, where he would license songs to film, television, and had music placements with major labels and artists. Finally, our speaker spent 4 years in the United States Marine Corps. His time with the Corps has given him the discipline needed to succeed in any endeavor he undertakes. Our speaker is also happily married to Alice Pomatre Walker, and he has a daughter, Amara Denise Walker. And he has firmly planted his roots here in Ghana and is happy to call Ghana home. With a round of applause, let's welcome Mr. Marvin Walker, the health man who has a touch of entertainment and everything. I think he would tell us more about that. And he's happy to call Ghana home. I think that's worth an applause. Thank you so much, Mr. Walker.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Can we have one more round of applause for that phenomenal lady that came before me? Wonderful, wonderful. You know, I didn't see her videos before coming to Ghana, but once I got to Ghana, I started seeing Ivy's videos, and it was one of the things that helped me gather the strength to stay in Ghana, right? Being a diasporan coming from America, where things, as Ms. Prosper said, are more rigid and they work more fluently, it could be very frustrating your first time in Ghana. But when I got here, I fell in love with the country. And one of the things was the lovely way that you guys welcome us, right? The first time somebody said to me, "You're invited to my food," right? When the mindset is people in Africa don't have much to eat, to me that was so significant that a person who may potentially this be their last meal said, "Come and share it with me." When I see us eating our food with our hands and sitting with each other, it's one of the most wonderful things. So I just want to say, thank you to all you lovely Ghanaians who welcome us when we come here. You are greatly appreciated. Now, with that said, I would like to talk about mission, I'm possible. If you look at the word impossible, you take the first word is I'm, and then the last word is possible. And unfortunately, a lot of us sometimes don't think we have what it takes to be the best in our endeavors. And we have to start from the ground up because nobody's going to do it for us. And I came to Ghana through a business opportunity. But like the young lady said when she read my bio, my time in the Marine Corps gave me the discipline to stick with it and have the girth, to push through what seemed like insurmountable obstacles. And I'm telling you that each one of you have that exact same tenacity in you if equipped with the right tools. So I want to share with you today some of the tools on your entrepreneurial journey that have also helped me that you may want to equip yourself with. And the reason why I say this, a gentleman told me a few weeks ago, he said, "Man, Mr. Marvin, I've been watching your social media channel and you inspire me." And to me, I feel like I'm not getting quite where I want to get as fast as I'm going. But to hear a Ghanaian tell me that I inspired him was shocking because every day I'm still trying to figure things out, right? But this guy said to me, he said, "Mr. Marvin, here you are, an African American from the diaspora," but I had to correct him, I'm a Guyanese American, I was born in Guyana. But he said, "You came to our country, and I listened to your stories and I watched the challenges that you face, but you have not picked up and left yet. Why?" And it's because we see the opportunities. We know that Africa is the next frontier. You have the largest, youngest growing population that is going to set the trend for businesses and everything everywhere. And I've met some amazing young Africans that unfortunately think that they don't have it. They want to get up and leave and go to America and go to UK and all of these other places when you have it all right here and it's all within you. So some of the tools that I have endeavored over the years to equip myself with is, the first thing is studying successful people's failures. Everybody talks about the opportunities. So when we hear business and opportunities, we want to jump into a business, right? But nobody tells us that with opportunities comes difficulties. And you don't have to be afraid of those difficulties. Don't let those difficulties stop you from getting started. Somebody said something that I like to recall every now and then when the challenges, get too much for me. And they say you don't have to be perfect to start, but you have to start to get perfect. And it's because of the obstacles that are placed in front of you, you are going to get the skills needed to overcome bigger and greater obstacles. So when challenges come in your way, I am telling you through experiences, and I'm going to share some with you, that through those challenges is the tools that are preparing you for your breakthrough. I'm going to share with you one. How did I end up in Africa, in Ghana? I had no intentions of coming. I came before the year return. I had a huge contract with a company called Amazon. Some of you may know them. I'm making about $12 million a year. I'm excited. Life is going good. And I'm running around. I'm going to the Dominican Republic. I'm going to Aruba. I'm going to the Bahamas looking for islands to buy because I'm making a lot of money, right? And then all of a sudden the rug got pulled from underneath me, and this big major conglomerate took the business model that I had created, that I had felt so good inside because it was doing so well. I was empowering people. But they said, Mr. Walker, it's too good for you, but it's perfect for us. And I wanted to fight. And I was fighting, and a friend of mine said, Marvin, you need to go to Ghana. And I said, Ghana? I'm not going to Ghana. I have nothing in Africa. Why am I going to Africa? No, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to fight Amazon. I hired a lawyer. I was ready to go battle with the Goliath of the industry. And then I realized big companies like that, they own every single major law firm across the U.S. And if you go and you try to hire an attorney to help you beat them, they're going to say, you're a one-off. I'm getting consistent money with them. And that was the eye-opening moment for me, that sometimes in difficulties is when God is directing you to where your breakthrough is going to come. And I'm going to get there. So this gentleman asked me about 8 times, Ghana. I'm like, hey, Charlie, don't talk to me about no Ghana. I'm not going to Ghana. And a lady who worked at Amazon with me, her son had a contract. She said to me, her name is Monica Chapman. She was about 59 years old. She said, Marvin, why don't you go to Ghana and see what Ghana has to offer? And I said, no. She said, Marvin, I can't watch another white man do to you what they've done to so many of us. She said, I'm going to pay for your plane ticket for you to go to Ghana. I said, all right. At least I get a trip to Africa and I could say I did it. I jumped on a plane. I landed at Kotoka International Airport. And the people were there in traditional clothing, kente cloth, and they were happy, they were dancing. And I said, wow, I don't even get a welcome like this when I come in my house. It was amazing. I saw this airplane that was transformed into a restaurant. And I looked at this thing and said, wow. I looked past the airplane and I saw JW Marriott. They got the Marriott in Africa? You laugh. But I was so blinded by the poison that we've been taught about Africa that I didn't expect to see that. Then I got angry. We've been lied to. And I saw kids out in the streets selling plantain chips. And then I I got this warm feeling inside, and it reminded me of when I used to be in Guyana with my father and my grandmother selling plantain chips. And then Ghana became a nostalgic feeling. I remembered my childhood when I was the most happiest. And I said, you know what? I'm staying in Ghana. The same guy that said I'm not coming. I've married a beautiful Ghanaian woman. Thank you. I have 2 beautiful Ghanaian babies, one coming this week. She's not quite yet here, but I got about 8 more, right? I voluntarily brought the bloodline back to the continent. I got to repopulate people, right? But back to the story, all about the good things that happen, enough of that. So then, I'm here in Ghana. I launched my medical platform with the organization that brought me here. And after this, all this good feeling about being happy to be back on the continent, the organization that brought me here sat me in a hotel, and every week, Mr. Walker next week, Mr. Walker next week, Mr. Walker next week. Next week turned into 9 months. And I finally got frustrated, and I told them, listen, I'm going to sue y'all for every penny that you have and that you've cost me. We don't have the patience, but Ghana has taught me patience. Had I not met with that organization, I wouldn't be equipped to understand and deal with what they call Ghana man time, right? These are some of the obstacles and the things that's supposed to frustrate you, but is also supposed to trick you out of your opportunity. Ghana taught me patience. I still battle with it sometimes, but it taught me a lot more than I had. So every time that, Ghanaians would say, oh, we're meeting at 9 o'clock. One time a guy said he's meeting me at 9:30. He came to my hotel at 11:45 at night. The hotel room called me. The front desk said, Mr. Walker, you have a guest. I woke up, I'm like, what? I don't know nobody in Ghana that had no booty calls. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be crass, but I was like, what? And I go downstairs, it's the guy that I was supposed to meet at 9 o'clock. I couldn't believe it. God was testing me to make sure that I'm possible, right? That was one of my challenges, was the time adjustment. But now I have 2 beautiful 100% African babies that I have to be patient with. That when you grow up in America and you're running, you're doing your business and you go, sometimes your lovely children come up to you and you're rude and dismissive to them because you're constantly moving. And what I see in Ghana is family, is the thing that we lost in America, right? Is you guys sit down together and make time. You can have a job and a business, but somehow I still have time to sit down and enjoy an evening dinner with my wife. How is that? It's the same 24 hours that before when in America, right? Ivy in Canada, we can't seem to get 10 minutes to ourselves. Then, more and more challenges. And I was like, I'm leaving. And then COVID hit. Some of you seen my daycare app. They was running the advert. I came to Ghana with a medical organization, and I brought an app that functions a lot like Uber, Lyft, and Yango. In 2018, you use this app, you press the app, and it connects you with a medical doctor, a nurse. You can have a video chat with them. Or, because Ghana only had 16 ambulances when I came, you could request a Uber-like vehicle that has a nurse in it with a first aid kit, right? And should you have any medical emergency, well, not one that required emergency services, but if you had a cut, you were bleeding, somebody got hit by a car, they could treat it. And I thought because Ghana didn't have ambulances, for sure everyone would use this app. And I was getting frustrated because after I left the church that brought me here, I had to figure out this business. And I'm thinking because it's not working. But then a wonderful thing happened that was bad for every other business, COVID-19. And people from the US started calling me, Marvin, we know what you do. We know you ran medical logistics for the Red Cross. Can we license your daycare app? And now I have people in the US offering me millions of dollars to use my technology in the US, and I'm in Ghana. The first person that said that, I said, wow, if I took $1 million and converted that in Ghana, life would be great. So I'm talking to these companies, I'm trying to license the daycare app, and all of those multi-million-dollar deals fell through. But every conversation taught me what I wasn't saying right or what benefit they wasn't getting in the last. And I realized, I said, okay, Marvin, I like these conversations about $1 million. But how many lower denominations do I need to get to that same $1 million? And then I reduced my license fee, and I specifically started targeting medical professionals in the US that wanted to repatriate back to Ghana. And I said, for just $35,000, you could license the daycare app. Had things not work out, had my back not been against the wall, had I not have to figure out in my patient times who my audience is, and once I started targeting them, I got my first license. Now, I didn't come here saying, okay, I'm gonna license my technology and make USD while living in Ghana. I didn't. But the journey will show you where you need to pivot to. And once I made that pivot, things started working. And I'm proud to say that I've helped several African doctors in the US through licensing my technology transition back to the continent because they could use it and still work in the US. I'm saying that to you to say that when things seem like they're not working, they're impossible, it's really coming together for your good. When things seem like they're falling apart, they're really coming together. But do not quit because you think you're not good enough or you don't have the tools. Pay attention to what the difficulties is teaching you. When things are not working in your business, all it's saying to you is something is not right. Change this, tweak that, look at this. It doesn't mean it's not working, right? It's telling you what's wrong so that you could fix it. Ms. Prosper also made another valuable point. Success takes time. Don't think you're gonna start your business today and you're gonna start making money today. But it doesn't mean you have to give up on that business because those challenges, again, are helping you figure out what's not working in the business. How many people here knows on average how long it takes to be successful in your business? Success on average takes 5 years. So you must be willing to put 5 years of work in. And I'm telling you that if you stay committed, you don't get sidetracked, you don't give up on yourself because you are possible, it will work out for you. Let the journey put you on the right path because it's not possible. With business opportunities come difficulties to work out the kinks in your business. Right? Now, I told you guys that when I had my Amazon deal, I was running to every single Caribbean country looking for islands to buy. Never thought in 100 years of my life that I would find the perfect island in Africa, nor did I come to Ghana looking for it. While I'm here and things were challenging and I had to slow down, right? These difficulties, these impossibilities that make us want to quit sometimes. I said, let me start looking at property here in Ghana. And I stumbled across Ada, beautiful place. And the time that I was here when things were not working out, when I had to deal with Ghana man time that was preparing me and giving me the patience needed to go through the due diligence, to study people who were buying land from the diaspora and getting their money chopped and failing. That downtime, that Ghana man time was slowing me down was to learn how to do it right. And I tell you, I ended up purchasing an island in Africa. Nobody told me there was islands in Africa. So the thing that I was fighting in America, willing to go to war with Amazon for, I came and not only did I get one island in Ghana, not only did I get two, not only did I get three, but I have a total of 5, and I'm working on number 7, to help build riverfront communities so that those in the diaspora that want to repatriate to Ghana could see the beauty of the continent. And like Ms. Prosper, we're sharing with them, reshaping the narrative that no, Africa's not what you taught us. A friend said to her, "Do you believe? I didn't know you guys wore jeans in Africa." My son's mother called me one time. I was chewing some gum. She said, "What are you eating?" I said, "I'm chewing gum." "Yo, they have gum in Africa?" I said, "I gotta go, girl. You tripping." But you cannot fault us. America has done a great job of making us feel like we're not welcomed at home. But we are. So I just shared with you really quick my story and some of the challenges that I face. But I held on to the fact that I knew that I was possible, and I want you all to do that. And along your entrepreneurial journey, when things are not seeming like it's working out for you, ask yourself, is there something I should be paying attention to? Is this obstacle, is this insurmountable difficulty teaching me something that I'm not paying attention to, so that you don't miss your opportunity? Okay? Now, some tools that will help you along the way. Once we graduate, high school, university, we can't stop learning. One of the things that helped me is I started studying successful people and how they became successful. You have to keep reading and studying the people who have what you want and how they got there. So you have to keep taking in knowledge. That's one of the first things. The second tool that you need to learn and sharpen is how to build networks of great people. And I doubt I live there. I see the guys out there, they're fishing. In America, every father wants to take his kid fishing. They go fishing with one rod. When I'm in Ada, I see them cast a net. You too need your network when you're fishing for investors. You're fishing for partners. You need a network. So make sure you build a network, you communicate with people, you come to events like this, and you talk to other people, right? And the next thing that you need to do is you need to build up your endurance, right? Talk to other people, study people's failures, understanding that the people who were successful, the challenges they went through, I didn't want to celebrate in their failures. I wanted to understand the challenges that they met with and they endured, so that when it came to me, I was like, oh yeah, this is what Ray Kroc went through. I'm going to go through this. This is what Despite went through when he was out there selling his tape. Okay, it's happening to me now. Life is like a highway, and the signs will show you that you're on the way to your journey. So those are some of the 3 tips I have for you. Thank you very much to the African Transformational Program for having me. I don't know how you guys thought of me, but thank you so much and allowing me to share my story. And remember, guys, I'm possible. You're possible.
Wow. Could you repeat the last statement he made? Who got the last statement our speaker made? I'm possible. I'm possible. You are possible. So let's go. Sure, we all are possible. And so to the next session, we are going to have a conversation on our theme. That's the mentality to actually achieve the impossible. So after everything that we've heard from all the speakers and all, how do we practicalize it? How do we set our minds or psych ourselves to achieve whatever that is impossible? And to do that, we have the lead consultant for Corporate Toolbox Limited. He is a serial entrepreneur and CEO of multiple companies, including Boabin Books Limited, Corporate Tool Books Limited, and Enije Restaurants. He is also a professional speaker and consultant who has spoken on hundreds of conferences across the country and has been featured on multiple radio and television programs. As a corporate trainer, he has addressed leading companies including DataBank, Jospon Group, Novotel, Finney Hospital, Soccerbet, Olam Ghana, the Rotary Club, and many more. He's an author with 7 books to his credit, and he studied for an HND in marketing, a bachelor's in communication studies, and an MA in Organizational Leadership and a Corporate Governance from the University of Ghana Business School. Also, he has received numerous nominations and awards, including 40 Under 40 Awards, the Millennium Excellence Awards, Top 100 Speakers in Ghana, 50 Most Influential Young Ghanaians, and Ghana's #1 Young Speaker. With a round of applause, let's welcome Master Jeremiah Boabin to speak to us on the theme, the mentality to achieve the impossible. So let's keep giving it up for him. It's going to actually psych us up. And I would want all of us to pay rapt attention because his theme is at the heart of today's program, achieving the impossible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello. Hi, good afternoon to all of you. Help me salute the speakers who came before me. Help me salute them. Help me salute them. The only advantage I have over them is that I'm Ghanaian, and you don't have to hustle to hear my words. But I think that they've built really important foundation for my thoughts for this afternoon. I want to salute the African Transformational Project for inviting me to speak again. This is my third time speaking for them. That means that I've been doing a good work. Thank you. I was asked to speak on the mentality for achieving the impossible. The mentality for achieving the impossible. I thought about the topic for several weeks, trying to ruminate on it to see where in the topic I find myself. Unfortunately, I disagree with the topic because I've thought about life. I've thought about many things that have happened in many parts of the world. Many things I've read about and heard about and seen. And my honest opinion about life is that nothing is impossible. So I'm not here to speak to you about the mentality to achieve the impossible. I'm here to let you know that nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible for you. Nothing is impossible for Ghana. Nothing is impossible for Africa. And I'm not here to just share with you empty words, empty motivation, talk to you about things I've read from books, because I'm not just a good talker, I'm a doer. And I've done many things in my life. At the age of 17, I began a career as a professional speaker. By age 20, I started organizing my own conferences. By age 25, I published my first book. By 27, I started my first company in my life. I've started a few companies. Some have succeeded, some have failed, some have seen moments of prosperity, some have seen moments of difficulty. Even those that have seen moments of prosperity have seen serious periods of difficulty. But in spite of it all, I believe that nothing is impossible. And possibility does not mean the absence of difficulty. Possibility does not mean that life will be easy. Possibility does not mean that there will be no discomfort. Possibility does not mean that there will be no inconvenience. Possibility means that no matter how difficult life can get, it's possible to become anything you want to become. It's possible for Ghana to become anything we want it to become. It's possible for Africa to become anything we want it to become. Because see, the problem with us Africans is that everybody in the world suffers difficulty. Only us, we hold on to the difficulty and say, this is the reason why we are struggling. We can go back hundreds of years ago and say slave trade. They will move from slave trade and come to colonialism. And we keep finding reasons upon reasons for why we are not doing well in the world. But we are not the only people in the world who have suffered. Africa, we are not the only people in the world who have suffered. Europe has probably suffered even more than Africa. Oh, you don't believe me? I will tell you. 200 years before the Second World War, Europe was doing well. Something had happened that they called industrialization. So Europe had moved from hand production methods to machine tools. Textile industry was booming because it's at first. Textile is made largely from cotton. and cotton was done with their hands. Then they developed a machine called a cotton gin that can remove the seeds from the cotton 50 times faster than hands. So the textile industry boomed. Then iron production became a major thing in Europe because they needed iron to make machines. Then they discovered the steam engine, which transformed factories and manufacturing. And things kept on happening. They discovered the incandescent lamp. Then they came to the telegraph and the telephone. Then they came to the combustion engine, and then they made a car. A lot of things happened in Europe during the period of the industrialization. By the late 1800s, Britain had become the leading commercial country in the world, in Europe. So from Britain, then Austro-Hungary, then Germany, then France, before Japan, the United States. So even before United States saw industrialization, Europe was way ahead. Then the Second World War happened. The Second World War is the most destructive conflict in the history of the world. The most destructive. Almost 50 million people died because of the Second World War, covering about 50 nations. Millions of people died. Millions of people became unemployed. The European economy collapsed, totally collapsed. Major cities, London, Berlin, they were all bombed. Infrastructure was destroyed. Road, railway lines, seaport, airport, hospitals, factories, homes. And there was food shortage. People were hungry. Even in the parts of Europe that had been victorious in the war, people were hungry. And there was inflation rate. Inflation was going up. And most of Europe had borrowed money to finance the war effort. Now, if you look at, if this was Africa, like we will agree that we are dead. Like it will feel like there's no hope for the continent of Europe any longer. That they could not become anything again. That was the story of Europe. In 2 years, after 1945, after the war, production levels came back to normal. Germany, that had lost the war, in a few years' time, they had improved by about 185%. Suddenly, Britain bounced back. Germany bounced back. France bounced back. Within less than 15 to 20 years after the Second World War, Europe had entered a golden age of capitalism. And the whole continent had turned around. How does this relate to the African story? Because for many of us, when we look at Africa, we feel that there's no hope for us. We feel that we can't be great, that we can't build a world-class society, that we can't be developed. But if you look at us, we are far better off than Europe after the Second World War. We have so much going for us than Europe after the Second World War. If they could turn around their continent, so can we. My friends, nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible. The biggest barrier the African must overcome is his mind. The biggest obstacle the African must conquer is his mindset. That feeling that makes us feel that we are second-class citizens of the world. We must overcome that barrier. We must start believing in ourselves more. Believing the same God. If you believe in God, and you believe that He's the one who created the universe and created human beings, the same God who created the European created the Ghanaian. The same God who created the American created the African. You are not inadequate. You are not inferior. You are not weak. If those of us in this room decide that we will stand up and be counted and will make a difference in our generation, we can make a difference in this country and on this continent. So, if everybody in Ghana decides not to change, those of us in this room, these critical mass of people, we must decide that we'll become generational thinkers. Because it's a challenge for many of us that we are operating at a subsistence level. You know, remember subsistence farming in agriculture, right? Where the farmer just grows crop, take care of himself. And many of us, that's our thinking, that's our mindset. We are operating at a subsistence level. Me peka kredi. Me peka kra many mebusi and bedi. That's our whole ambition. But listen, all these things that I discussed, the invention of the car, the combustion engine, the telegraph, the telephone, the incandescent lamp, the aeroplane, all of those amazing things, they were not done by government. They were not done by government. They were done by individual entrepreneurs with ambition to make a difference. Individuals. African thinks that the government must solve every problem. Listen, if you're going to turn around this continent, I'm not saying government doesn't have a role to play. Government has a role to play. But all of us here have a role to play. And if there's any group of people who can turn around the destiny of this continent and of this country, it's entrepreneurs. And not entrepreneurs who are selling clothes on WhatsApp. Let me add that one to it. No disrespect for those who sell clothes on WhatsApp and Instagram. But guys, if you are trying to do something to turn around the destiny of our nation, we can't all be selling second-hand clothes on WhatsApp. We must move from buying and selling to manufacturing. Somebody here must make funds. You know, our restaurant. When I was finishing my restaurant, I got angry because I went to buy fan. The fan is from India. Into India, they don't know one year science. The fan is from India. The AC is from white. Let's say everything I bought is from somewhere other than Ghana. Why? Listen, I know that talk is not cheap. I've been an entrepreneur for nearly a decade. I've been building a career for the past 7 years. I know that it's difficult. I'm not saying that everything is perfect. But if you're going to turn around the destiny of our nation, some of us must stand up and die for this country. I'm not saying go and play for the Black Stars. I'm saying that do something beyond your personal comfort. Do something. We must move from a subsistence mindset to a generational thinking mindset that I'm doing something for Ghana. Look, it will never happen that you hear that I've gone to live in the UK. Ain't see that. Canada, ain't see that. America, ain't see that. Because see, all of us think that we have a good reason to depart from Ghana. All of us think that we do. But think of Ghana right now. No matter how difficult Ghana is Ghana worse than Germany after the Second World War? Or Britain? Or France? Or Belgium? They didn't come and live in Ghana. They stayed in their country and built. You are running away from Ghana. Who will build this nation? Who? I don't want to run away from the problems that my children will come and meet. So if you're an entrepreneur here, if you're interested in business here, you must think beyond survival. Think beyond survival. Think of doing something that is radical. Men don't shoes keke. Men kofa shoes for China na men ton keke. And your entrepreneurship, you are the for. Do something challenging. Go into manufacturing. Practice innovation. Create some invention. Let's do something. Let's stop selling the inventions that other people have made and start making our own. I don't understand. We've been watching television for 100 years. And we don't have Ghana-made televisions. Like you don't see any television called Insura. You don't see any television. You can talk about to be. What to be? So the electric fan that you use is not Ghana-made. The AC you use is not Ghana-made. The TV you watch is not Ghana-made. The chair you sit on is not Ghana-made. How can we make progress in life if we are spending? So you see, the reason why the dollar keeps messing up is because everything that we use in Ghana, we turn it into dollars and go and buy somebody's something. That's all. That's all. That's all. So we make money, we change to dollars, we go and import. We make money, we change dollars, we go and import, we come and sell. So there must be some entrepreneurs who say that we want to write a different story. That we want to make a difference. We want to do that which is radical, that which is transformational. Because if you're going to keep doing the same things that we are doing, and all of us are going to put lady models on our hot studios who are modeling dress, we won't go very far. Nowadays, 4 out of every female friend is selling some clothes on WhatsApp. It's okay, but it's basic. It's basic. It does not have the power to transform our country. if you look at countries that have developed, whether in Europe, in Americas, or in Asia, these are countries that have created their own stuff, built their own ideas, pioneered innovations, inventions, done creative stuff. So if you're going to turn around the history of our continent, you must move beyond buying and selling to actually producing our own stuff. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy. I'm not saying that there will be no challenges. You know, in the first few months of running the restaurant, first month, my light bill was 7,000, second month, 6,000. And I've been planning to manufacture cars, and I say, if you didn't put a 7,000, I can be a cars like I say. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. But if you're going to turn around the story of our country, we must be different. We must be different. I hope that in the next few years, I'll see some of you pioneering the most innovative, creative ideas that will turn around our country and our continent. Thank you very much.
Hello? Okay. So, my life, there are only two speeches that when I listen to, I get chills. That is Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech and Kwame Nkrumah's Independence speech. But the speeches I've heard in the room today have given me the same chills. Put your hands together once again for our speakers. So, just like we did for the first section, we are going to have a very brief panel discussion, and it is at this discussion that participants will also have the opportunity to ask our speakers some questions. And we are going to talk about very important things. We are going to pick the themes that they spoke about from their respective presentations. So without much ado, without wasting my time, let's invite our speakers with a round of applause back to the stage. Keep clapping, keep clapping. So I would ask my first batch of questions. Then I also give room for participants to also ask their questions. But because time has been spent, participants are limited to just one question. Keep your questions very brief. And participants would use this microphone for their questions. Are we all okay? Did you love what you hear? Okay, sure. So there's been a lot of talk and a lot of lessons. And the fantastic thing is that anything that each of them shared was from their own life experience. So they are not quoting a book, they are not quoting somebody's experiences, they are quoting their own life experience. So many wealth of knowledge that has been shared in this room. So I'll begin with Miss Ivy Prosper. So she spoke about opportunities in Africa. Almost all of them spoke about opportunities in Africa. And she spoke about how it's important to identify challenges and make good use of those challenges. And she spoke about one content that blew her up, and that was the content she took of Steve Harvey. And in an interview that I listened of her, she said she took that content, that video, not even with an advanced smartphone. I think it was one of the versions of the Samsung S series. So I wanted to ask, there are a lot of people, Ms. Ivy, that want to enter into content creation. There are a lot of people who want to build businesses. I'll take the views of my other speakers as well. How important is starting small in any business that you do? Because your content with Steve Harvey blew up not on an iPhone 13, but it was a minimal Samsung phone. So speak to us about the importance of starting small in content creation or in business or in anything at all.
So first of all, it was 2019 when that video came out. There's no such thing as an iPhone 13 in 2019. And also, I'm a Samsung for life person, and it kind of hurts my heart when people say Samsung is not an advanced phone. So at that time, 2019, it was a Samsung S6 that I used. And I must say, sorry, I'm such an advocate for Samsung. They need to sponsor me. Samsung phones had 4K before iPhones did, by the way. And so anyway, yes, the question, back to the question. So Samsung, iPhone, you know, what are the other ones we use? Techno, whatever phone you're using, it's important to know that it's not always about the equipment that you're using, but it's about the person telling a story that people are interested in. I remember years and years ago, before your time, there was a horror movie that became really successful, and it was done just so, it was very basically done. Like, quality wasn't good. Everybody was like, how did this movie become so successful in the theaters? But it was the way the story was told, people were pulled into it. So I tell people who want to create content that you should find the stories that you think people would be interested in and put your phone on the highest settings possible, because some people don't realize that your phone, when you get it, it's on the default, which is usually to save space on your phone. So make sure that you check the settings of the camera to make sure that it's on the highest level so that you can create compelling content that looks as best as possible with the phone that you have. And then also, if you want to do things like slow motion, that kind of thing, you can film in 60 frames per second. Most phones will go to that now. If you go to the settings, you look for the 60 frames per second, but it takes up a lot of space. So if you do 60 frames per second, then you slow it down for slow motion shots. But most of the time, 30 frames per second is fine. But I don't think you have to have the top equipment to tell stories. I do the majority of my content on my phone. I'm doing social media for Ghana Tourism, and then for my own personal content, and I do 99.9% of it is on my phone. And also, in the context of being in Ghana, there's a lot of places you go that if you have a professional camera with you, they want you to have the permits, they want you to pay a fee. I was at a restaurant in Tema, Sakamono, where my friend took his camera out because he was gonna just film me just talking about the food, and then they rushed over and said, you have to pay $100 US if you wanna use a camera in their restaurant. And then he was like, can we use the phone? He's, oh yes, you can use the phone, no problem. It's like, the phone is gonna take just as good video and pictures as the camera does. So sometimes using the phone is more ideal in some situations as well. So don't be afraid to just start if you want to create content. People are even making movies with phones now.
Okay, fantastic. So this next question, I'll take Marvin's views on, no, I'll take Ivy first, I'll take Marvin's views on that as well. So I think both of you spoke about the perception that a lot of people have about Africans, a lot of stories that you hear. People think that Africans even live in trees. A lot of people do not know, just like Mr. Marvin said, that there's even gum in Ghana. So how do we shape our own unique stories to redefine our identities out there? I know Nigerians are doing that with music and other things, but in tech, in sports, politics, education, how do we sell better content out there for people to appreciate that Africans are also great, there are good things also in Ghana? How do we do that?
You do it by just telling the story. I mean, when I think about myself with my YouTube channel, when I first started sharing content, and even I used to do a blog, it was just so that I can share what Ghana looked like to my friends and family who were still in Canada and the US. So when you see something that you think, I can share this so people can know this about us, then just film it, take pictures of it, write about it, and consistently do it. Because people think you post something and it's gonna blow up right away, but if you do it consistently, that's when you see that people will eventually start coming to you. Like, Wodemaya is one of the people who has done that very well. It's taken him a decade to do what he's doing. People think it happens overnight. Like, it's a long game. It's not a fast thing. So if you're in tech, like I know a guy who's in tech and does videos. When something new comes out, he does a video on it. He says he's from Ghana, and then he talks about what's available here in Ghana. What do we use? How do you do this? How do you do that? So if you do tech, then be online and talk about tech as a Ghanaian creator. I gave a young woman advice the other day who said she's an accountant. I said, so where are you working? Oh, I can't find a job. I'm at home. I'm waiting to get a job. And I said, you need to be out there talking about being an accountant. Go on TikTok, make a video every day talking about some tips you give for businesses. I say, I'm Mami Ya, and I'm telling you today about A, B, C, and D, 3 tips. Then the next day, do the same thing. And then eventually you become this creator from Ghana who's an accountant who's giving tips. So then people abroad see that, oh, well, there's people who do accounting there too. Like right now, I see people contact me about the Shark Island. They're like, oh, that Shark Island sounds really interesting. So it's just a matter of sharing the content. Just share it. Don't be afraid to share it. Because I think we have a culture of also being afraid to share things because people try to be more private. But if you want to share without showing your personal stuff, you can share stuff to let people know what's going on here.
Fantastic. Put your hands together for you. Yes, you can. Yes.
Yeah, so Ivy's 100% right. But what I'd like to add is, it's already started happening. We just need more of it. And each of you need to share we need to control the narrative. Somebody else was telling us what Africa looks like. When I came here for the first time, and I got on the plane, I saw more white people on the plane than I saw melanated people coming to Ghana, and I was very confused. But if we control the narrative by telling the story and show any and everything, because you never know what's going to be that piece of content that's going viral, but they have to know that you're Ghanaian, and I'm showing Ghana for what it really is. There's a gentleman who was part of developing the Twitter as well as Facebook. He's a young Ghanaian that wrote the algorithm. Right? I was shocked to know that. Watermaya is doing an amazing job. He's down in Suriname and Brazil near my country, just showing now all of that. In my country, there's a statue that we call Kofi, but we found out it's Kofi. My flag looks just like the Ghanaian flag, except it's a triangle. And we've had a relationship with Ghana that we didn't even know. And now I'm sharing, and so many Guyanese are coming to Ghana because they see me in Ghana talking about how the food is similar. So I share every little piece of content, and you should too. But it's already happening. We just need to make it happen more till all of our content is more than their content.
All right, great.
The other thing, if there's anybody in here who's into filmmaking or anything like that too, is that film is a way that also shapes what we think. Because a lot of American movies have trained us to believe that America is the savior of the world. Like, you watch a movie and there'll be a scene where it's like, the white guy is the guy who's coming to save everybody. They've done all the things, the buildings have crashed, but he manages to save the child, and he runs out and he's the hero of the day, and then he stands there and the wind is blowing. And when the wind is blowing, there's an American flag strategically placed behind him, and it's waving, and they're like this, and it's like subconsciously telling you, America has saved the world. Like, we can do that in film, where you have these stories and the Ghanaian flag is there telling the story. So I just wanted to point that out, that movies and TV shows have trained us to believe America is the greatest place on earth.
Yeah. Mr. Marvin, so one more thing before Mr. Boabin comes in. So during your presentation, you spoke about cultural shock, coming to know things like Ghana Man Time, where an event is supposed to start at 9 a.m. and it begins at 11 a.m. And you mentioned that is one of the things that made you hard, one of the things that made you understand the African culture, one of the things that the aspirants used to learn about African culture. Do you think that that is also one of the things that retrogresses our development? Or do you think that is also one factor that worries us as people, as Ghanaians, our indiscipline, not being punctual to events and all those things? Do you think that is also a setback to our development?
You know, that's a very good question, but I'm going to give a difficult answer. It's yes and no. And the reason why I say, so yes, because, again, I was in the Marine Corps, and they programmed me to think that I have to be everywhere on time. In America, we work for white corporations. If you're not here within 5 minutes of your start time, you're fired. So we've been conditioned to that, right? So in that aspect, I say yes because, you know, we, of course, expect that same thing when we come here when we're trying to conduct and do business with the Ghanaian people, right? But at the same time, it is that same taking time to not rush that show me that that's what we need to do to appreciate family. So it's when you choose to use Ghana Man time, I guess,
So
right?
you can identify an opportunity in that challenge.
Yeah. And then somebody said something to me that, you know, was very profound. He said, you can't give a man that has everything, anything. And what he meant by that is he was like, listen, Africans could go outside and pick a fruit off a tree. You could go to your family's house. If you hit hard times, go back to the village. One of the things I love doing is going to my wife's village in Suatre. I hope I say it right. Right? But you see that people really, you know, time is not a factor, and you appreciate it more. But Ghanaians have, Africans as a whole, you have everything that we need, right? So when you have everything you need, that's why you guys move like, Charlie, it's okay. If I get hungry, I can go and get some banku and tilapia over here in my family, right? So it's a blessing and a curse, but it's just us learning how to use it appropriately. So
Great,
difficult.
great. Mr. Boabeng, so you spoke on mindset, and you made an interesting remark in your speech, but I think people, it appeared as a joke, but it's a very serious comment that how many Ghanaian televisions do we have? So the Ghanaian will literally buy anything apart from made in Ghana. Somebody can even make a shoe in Kumasi and put made in India. Once it's there, it's made in India, people will buy. Why do you think that a Ghanaian will go on the market and choose not to buy a Jenyame bag and buy a Louis Vuitton or Gucci? Is it, so two things, is it that our products are inferior, or is just mental conditioning, or we just don't know how to market our products right? What is the challenge as a businessman in your experience?
Okay, so I'll answer this question in two levels. The first level is, I think that for the past decade or so, attitude towards Ghanaian products has improved. There are a lot of people who are embracing Ghanaian stuff. If you've noticed, if you check this room right now, probably people wearing Ghanaian fabric is probably half of the room. You couldn't have said that about 10 years ago. Most people in the room would be wearing suits and ties. So the attitude towards Ghanaian stuff is improving, it's changing, but it's not enough. And there's something that Ivy said. She was talking about how American movies have programmed us, all of us, to think of America in a certain way. I think that generally as a people, we need to rewire, overhaul our thinking about ourselves. Go on social media. If you go on social media, it is as if people's natural instinct is to criticize, talk about negative things, downplay Ghana, play down Ghana, play down Ghana. But there's lots of amazing things happening in the world, happening in Ghana. Nobody's talking about it. So we have this somehow wired thing in us that makes us feel like we must downplay ourselves. We must look down on ourselves. We must criticize something Ghana. So, you know, like, let somebody come out right now and criticize, say, a company or a Ghanaian product or something. People who have never had any experience with this brand or product or company come and say all kinds of things. Why are we like that? Why are we like that? So let's take the banking crisis, for instance. Some of our models, paragons of entrepreneurship, were in trouble. Their banks have failed, and we were jubilating. And you're not so busy banking. Now you want to build a bank, and somebody has built a bank that has failed, and you're jubilating. There's this thing in us that makes us focus on the darkness, on negative things, on things that are not working, and on things that are working. So we must be deliberate. And you see, I can only speak to those of you who are in this room. And I pay particular respect to entrepreneurs because if you take two people and one is an entrepreneur, he's very often more proactive than the other person. So if you're going to turn around this country, then all of us must start thinking differently. If your goal is to become an entrepreneur and build a business, you will be careful how you talk about somebody else's business. And you will be deliberate about finding things to complement. It's one of the things that I've made second nature. Like, I can meet you in the street. I've never seen you before. I say, wow, you have a nice shirt. Like, you're looking very good. I do it all the time. By default, I have wired my mind to find things in people to celebrate, to acknowledge, to compliment. And we must be deliberate about doing that as a people. That's why we say things like Ghana man, black man. What's wrong with the black man? So we must begin to change how we think about ourselves. Every time a thought drops in your mind that is condescending of who you are, of who a Ghanaian is, of who an African is, you must be deliberate about stifling it. Because that's what we are dealing with. That's one of our biggest barriers. If we're able to deal with that, we'll be able to celebrate ourselves, and we'll be deliberate about telling stories. I mean, the movies that the Americans make, it's not a government project. It is an individual entrepreneur who is just deciding that I'll say things like, we're the greatest nation on earth. America is not the greatest nation on earth, but they're still saying it in their movies. And because they say it, we believe it. So we should start changing the way we think of ourselves and the way we talk of ourselves. And that will begin a spiral, a snowball movement that will change a lot of things that we do in this country. I think that's how we should start.
All right. Put your hands together for him. So, our audience will come in. Before they come in, I want Mr. Boabing to answer one last question. So if you have a question, just put it down, think it, and I will invite you to take the microphone. So Mr. Boabing, you've spoken about entrepreneurship, how we can develop Ghanaian businesses. And when you were speaking, I mean, there have been other speeches I've heard of you, how you began in your room, how you began in a small corner. And sometimes entrepreneurship, it's not sometimes, everyday entrepreneurship is difficult because there are times that business people have to pay staff and they'll go hungry. Resilience. What keeps people, what should be the motivation? Because a funny story, when I was starting the gym instructor told me that, look at the macho man on the wall. It should motivate you about what you want to be in future, so don't think about today. What is that resilience that can motivate entrepreneurs? Because like you said, owning a business is difficult. What should be that thing that they should put in their mind that it should keep me going? I have to be consistent.
You see, if you're not already in business and we say that being in business is difficult, you think you understand. You don't understand. You have no idea. You have no idea. Entrepreneurship is something you will never understand until you are in it. Being in business is difficult. It's the most difficult thing I've ever done. For me, what keeps me going? I'm clear in my mind what God has called me to do and become. And very often I have conversation with myself and I say, if I, Jeremiah Boabing, I cannot succeed in business and create jobs for people in this country, who can? Who can? So for me, what I'm doing is not just survival, it's assignment. I'm trying to become what God has called me to become. You have to find something to hold on to. Can I travel abroad? If I go abroad, I'm sure I'll do a job that will pay me more money than I'll make in Ghana. But I should move abroad for who to solve Ghana's problems, for who to create businesses, for you to transform this nation. Because the funny thing about everybody who goes there is everybody wants to come back again. So what's the point in moving there and coming back again? So you need to be clear about your assignment, your purpose, your destiny, the kind of difference you are trying to make in the world. And it's very easy for the difficulty in entrepreneurship to make you forget why you started. It can get really, really, really hard, and you can feel like, pack bags, Charlie, Namika, who sent me? And go home. Trust me, it can get very hard. But you need to constantly remind yourself of why you started, the difference you are trying to make, the kind of impact you're trying to make. Because, see, money is a critical part of everything. One of the reasons why Europe was able to turn around was because The US created a plan called the Marshall Plan and gave Europe a lot of money. Back then it was $13 billion. In today's currency, it's $175 billion. But how do we make money? Money does not come from the sky. Money comes from economic activity, running a business. So if we're going to make money in this country, some people must survive and stay in business and make money so that the country can turn around. So all of us have to find that one thing that we'll hold on to. What are you trying to become? For some of you, it can be your family. You look at the kind of family that you come from, the struggle, the deprivation, the poverty, and say that for this cause, David said that, is there not a cause? So you have to find a cause. You have to find a reason why you must fight the battle. And you have to remind yourself every day why you started, or else you'll give up.
Find a cause and remind yourself. Put your hands together for them. So if you have any questions, put your hands up. Kindly show by hands. Okay, so please, we are using this microphone for this section. Yeah. So we'll take the questions briefly. Our speakers will address it. Then we'll just wrap up the speech.
Right,
Please, who else has any other question? Okay. So please, how many? Let me see. How many are you? Okay, yeah, you can join them. Please keep your questions brief.
All right, good afternoon once again. I think Ghana, we celebrate failure than success. When someone fails, we are happy. But when the person is succeeding, we do not see that one. Please, in Ghana, starting a business that no one does it in Ghana, like I have a business that I want to go into, and then I see no one in it. So I have to discuss that with someone and say, I'm not sure you can do it. So they discourage you going into it. And then going to there's this tourism aspect of it that we focus on the ones that has names already. Accra, Cape Coast, Elmina, but there are other places that we can explore and go into it. So, Uncle Marvin, there's, please, you mentioned you buy islands. If there's any more you want, please see me.
So you don't have a question? Guys, let's not do this. The next person, please.
Okay, good evening, I'm Yao Chris.
Can we have some silence in the auditorium?
Listening to three of you speak, in fact, I'm motivated.
Kindly, yes.
When we were in school, we were made to learn about Nkrumah and the likes. Now we've left the Nkrumah's days, we are in our days. My question to all of you, the three, is that what? Everybody is saying Africa is the next opportunity. What is Africa doing wrong or not getting right in fighting for development of Africa?
Okay, thank you. Yes. So let's take the first three, then you answer them together to save time.
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for the speech. It was beautiful and it's encouraging. But then I want to ask about service. So when I was in university, I was doing business administration, but then I found out that I love social media, I love social media a lot. And so I started studying social media during coronavirus especially. I studied it in AdSense and everything. And after I studied it, I needed companies to try, and they didn't want to employ me. I mean, you're not a professional. We're looking for other people and everything. But then I got a lady in Australia who hired me, and then she loved what I did. Even though I was not coming up, I got another person in UK who is a white man, but also employed me. And he's not even in Ghana, but he trusted me. And I did a good job for him. And the people that are in Ghana that didn't want to employ me, now oh, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? Exactly. Can you do that for me? Can you do that for me?
And it continues to happen. It's not only me. I believe a lot of youth or a lot of young adults face this. When we start up in Ghana and we want them to accept us and help us build, they don't want to accept us. So they see that, okay, you have an international CV now, so we can employ you. So how do we deal with that?
Okay. The next person.
Thank you for the speech. I have 2 questions.
Please, one.
Okay. It's what role can the education system play in instilling a mindset that embraces diversity and inclusivity across Africa?
Okay, thank you very much. So the rest of the speakers, kindly take your seats. After they've answered the first batch of questions, we'll come back. So the guy in white, you are the last person, so take note of that. So let me just rehash the questions for my speakers in case they forgot. So the first question, the person says, what is Africa doing wrong? Because we've heard stories about Nkrumah, we've heard people who are doing well, but what is so wrong with the continent? What is so wrong with the black race? So I think if you can answer that, yeah.
In my opinion, I think what is wrong is it goes back to the mindset. It goes back to the mentality, because if you yourself are not seeing the capability that you have to do something, then things are not going to progress. So I think that's our biggest obstacle, is the mindset that people have about what they're capable of doing, and always wanting someone else to give something to them. I think that we have a continent that has been trained to believe that they need to be saved by someone else. And I say that, for example, you'll have NGOs that may be coming and giving things away for free all the time in certain areas, and then the people have the mindset of, well, I don't have to do anything, I can just wait for the white people to come and give me stuff. I don't have to do anything. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't be giving. I'm just saying that I feel like there's a lot of initiatives that happen that have trained a lot of our people to believe that you don't necessarily have to do anything. And the mentality of thinking, I'm not good enough, I don't have the capability of doing it. I think that those are some of our biggest problems.
Oh, Mr. Marvin.
Yeah, so I'm going to second what Ivy said and say it's all mindset, right? We have to reprogram ourselves, and you have to do it. Nobody's going to do it for you. We lost our imagination, right? And that's what a young lady asked a question about education and what can they do, and it ties in, right? The education system is designed to teach us how to work for others. But if you tap into, your creativity and work on your mindset, you could change those things. Also, Africa is growing up. I like to, when somebody tells me something that's profound that helps me get centered, I like to share it. Someone said something to me when I was ready to leave Ghana, and he said, Marvin, Ghana at the time was only 65 years old. He said the US is like 400, the developed world is many years ahead in advance. He said it's like expecting a 10-year-old to think and behave like a 45-year-old. It doesn't mean we still stay as a child. We have to work and develop our mind and make it grow, but also understand that, the shift is now happening, and you have to do your part by educating yourself and changing the mindset. So when you're discouraged, remember, okay, I'm just 10 years old, developed now, but when I'm 21, and look forward to that, and do so by educating yourself, regaining our creativity, and even though you're in Africa, you could mentally dream and be anywhere in the world you want to be. And that's how great ideas are gonna come.
Mr. Barney.
So I'm going to respond to the beautiful one's question about acceptance. I'll agree in part and disagree in part. And I will agree in part because I've learned from experience that the more successful you become, the easier it is for people to accept what you have. So I started a restaurant in February this year, and I've had a lot of people I know from various aspects of my life, from school, from uni, from poly, from masters, from church, from industry, trooping into the restaurant. Why are they coming to the restaurant? Because I started it. The more successful you become, the easier it is for people to celebrate what you do and accept it. That is one part. The other part is that a part of what we need to deal with, that Ivy spoke about but did not probably label, is entitlement. It's us feeling that we deserve help. We have made something. People ought to buy it. Life is not that easy. You should be, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you should be willing to be a warrior and fight. Be a warrior, be a communicator, be a seller, be a marketer. Like, know how to blow your own trumpet until people buy and accept what you have. You have a job to do that. Very often, the challenge with those of us who think we are doing good stuff is that we think that people should accept it without us making effort. But the person who makes condoms markets it. The person who does beaters markets it. You organize conferences so you don't have to market it. You have a church so you don't have to market it. Be there. You have to understand that if you have birthed an idea, you must fight to promote the idea. And the birther of the idea must be the number one promoter of the idea. And you have to keep pushing it. You see, because when you start something, very often the people around you are skeptical. Can he do it? Is it even good enough? Is it great? If you give up quickly, they will say, okay, we said he can't do it. And sometimes they don't do it out of malice. It's natural. Then you persist for a few months. Hey, Charlie, Marvin said he will do that. He's doing that, you know. Let me go there and go and see. Then they come there, they have a great experience. Say, hey, that is great too. Then they call somebody else and they come. So the entrepreneur must persist for as long a time as possible to compel people to believe in the idea. And it's your job and you must do it. And you shouldn't feel entitled to people's support, applause, celebration, promotion. You must keep working until such time when it's like you're pushing a car tire and it builds momentum and it takes on the power of its own and just keeps moving. But that's how the world is. Nobody owes us support. Nobody owes us patronage. We have to work to earn it. And it's a principle in Ghana and a principle anywhere in the world. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. So I think the question on educational system, I think Marvin touched on it. I want to also.
Okay, so my question was about inclusivity and diversity. I mean, those big words, I don't understand. What does it mean? So when she says inclusivity and diversity, what are we talking about? Well, very often when we mention those words, they're talking about marginalized people. But who are the marginalized people? Are they physically challenged people? Are they Africans? Like, who are they? Because it's a very broad question. As for me, I have a perpetual battle with education. My biggest battle with education is its tendency to focus on rote learning than the ability to think, analyze, and create. That's my biggest battle with education. Like, it's as if school is working somewhere, and industry is working somewhere, and school has not been designed and implemented in such a way that it prepares people for work. So that's my biggest battle with. But of course, education has a role to play in everything the country wants to achieve. In everything. If you want to build a country where people respect every ethnic group, you must start in the classroom. And when somebody's in kindergarten, is in nursery, is in class 1, and he's taught to respect another tribe, eventually they'll grow with it. So certainly education has a role to play in inclusivity and diversity. Yeah.
Wow, let's put our hands together for them. So let's take the next 3 batch of questions quickly.
All right, please, my question goes to Mr. Boabe.
1 question each.
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right, so you talk of manufacturing. Now you have, or let's say I have a manufacturing idea, but the issue is that funding. I cannot start it alone. And definitely as a student and having the idea of going into this manufacturing with my own analyzing and trying to research and see how it will go, I believe that it will make waves. Now, I don't have the funds to start up. Also, trying to get closer to someone probably who might have the funds to talk to. You are scared that probably your idea is going to be taken out from you or is going to be stolen. That mindset is also there. Now, how do I do it? How do you get to work around as you still try to fight on and still get some funds to start up the manufacturing? So how do you get to start? How do you make sure that it is not being stolen from you, even as you still look for funds and ways and means by which you can get the money to go into it? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question. Let's take the next question.
All right, thank you. Excellent speeches, everyone. I was very touched by it. My question is about positioning. So, directed to everyone, kind of. So, my question is, how can an entrepreneur position himself or herself to achieve sustainable results? We all believe that for entrepreneurs or everybody over here, at the end of the day, what we are trying to do with our business, aside making impact, is to make profit, right? So, using Mr. Marvin's case study and Mr. Marvin's case study, Mr. Marvin made, I think, a reference to when he came, people were selling plantain chips on the road. And he also made reference to, the WhatsApp clothes sellers, right? Let's take someone like maybe one individual, maybe the WhatsApp clothes seller or the one who is selling plantain chips. He or she has been doing this or it has been going on in the family for quite a number of years. How does he or she position himself or herself to be able to start making sustainable profits? What do I need to do? Who do I speak to? What network do I get into? Are there structures that are going to facilitate this kind of thing? How will it be sustainable over time for it to not only have effect locally, but have effect internationally? How does that venture, that enterprise, how does that grow to have the kind of results that actually rake in the kind of profits we are looking for? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. Nanette.
My question is about the status quo. I grew up with Ghanaian parents like Ivy, born and raised in the States. And the biggest issue I had was they had a box that I was supposed to live within. And if I was living outside of that box, I was a failure. So I had to fight to keep my mindset on what I would love to do. So I want you to share that experience. Like when you go outside of the box that everybody thinks you should go in, how does that affect you? Because a lot of people here aren't successful because they care about what everybody thinks.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's just take the rest so that we can wrap up.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Michael Chichuaholi, and I would want to find out and get your opinion on this. How a country where we have great orators, linguists who are very well respected in the kingdom, we have a tradition and a culture where we stitch our culture and we stitch stories in fabric. We look at our artworks and it tells stories. How can we have such a country or such a people unable to tell their stories on a world level, on a world class, at a world class standard? I would want to find out if we can improve the way that we tell our stories. We have culture where people tell stories better, but as of now, if we compare Ghanaian stories and that of those abroad, those in the Western world, we can't compare. So how can we be able to improve this, especially within the creative arts sector? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question.
Hello, my name is Tosin. Thank you so much once again for the wonderful presentation. It was lovely. My question goes like this: is quite simple. And based on your experiences as entrepreneurs and also creative people, how do you manage risk and setback when it comes to your business or to your creative abilities? Because we have to be practical. Also, as entrepreneurs, we tend to face, disappointment, risks. And how do you how do you get to manage the risk level, the setbacks and all that to keep on going on? Thanks.
All right, great. Last question.
Yeah. Good afternoon. My question goes to Madam Ivy Prosper. I think I've even added you already on my Facebook. Yes. All of you have done well. You've shared a lot with us already. So I'll just ask just one question. And mine is also in the area of in terms of writing, because I write too. So I want you to maybe guide me, maybe if there's any other experience or exposure you can give concerning my work or concerning my creative space. What are some of the key things that I need to practically, that I need to do to enhance my work so that my work can go further than myself? Because at the end of the day, it's not just about Ghana. I'm looking at it to transcend beyond borders. So I'll be seeking for a a practical approach of what to do, because there's something already I'm cooking that is coming. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, sure. I'll consider that.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. My name is Jackie. I was born in London, and I relocated 2.5 years ago to Ghana. And I just want to say that my background is in nursing, done lots of different things in London, came to Ghana, and I loved it and decided to stay here. What I want to say is that, a lot of people say to me, well, why would you leave London and come to Ghana? For me, there are so many opportunities here that, quite rightly, the panel have said that a lot of people, you're living here and you do not see the opportunities. My background is a nurse. I'm now a tour operator, inviting people from London to Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. So, these are the final batch of questions. I'll ask my speakers, then we'll just wrap up, then we'll just close. So there were some direct questions to some speakers. I'll ask those ones, then I'll ask the ones that were asked to everybody. So, Mr. Boabing, somebody asked about funding as an entrepreneur, a young entrepreneur. How will you seek for funding without people trying to steal your idea? The person wanted to know.
The more I grow and gain experience, the more I refrain from giving people formulas. So, because experience has taught me that things aren't always black and white. Things aren't always that simple. The issue of funding. So you see, in developed cultures like Europe and America, it's very relatively easier for an entrepreneur, a young entrepreneur, to go to venture capital and raise capital for a new venture. It's harder here, but maybe with good reason. Because I've learned from experience that if a person hasn't learned how to build, they almost always cannot manage money. If you haven't learned how to build, if you've not acquired something, it's hard to manage it. So for instance, if you're here, you've not managed 10,000 before, you're able to raise funding of 100,000, it is very likely that you cannot manage that money well. And you spend it doing things that will not bring you value. So there's advantage in the disadvantage of not having money. It prevents you from wasting it. If you have an idea and you don't have the money to pursue it, start small. Start the idea small. If the idea you have, it is incapable of being started small, it means that you are not ready for it. Unless you come from a rich family, you almost always have to start everything you do from a small scale to a large scale. So if the idea that you have, it cannot be started on a small scale, you are not ready for it. Because very often, an entrepreneur becomes it before they manifest it. There are a collection or a repertoire of skills, ability, and knowledge that you need in order to produce a certain results. If you don't have that, no matter how much money you receive, you lose it. So if you don't have the funding, start small with what you have and grow it little by little. The more you grow what you are doing, the larger the size of capital you attract, whether it is equity or it is debt. So start small. The risk of people stealing your ideas, for me, it's not a big deal. Because you see, I could have gotten the idea that Marvin had to do what he's doing. I will not have been able to do it the way he does it. I think that ideas are the cheapest thing you can find in the world. Everybody has ideas. The moment you receive an idea, it's almost certain that 1,000 people have received the ideas. The question is the discipline and the capacity to execute. So if you're a young person, don't worry a lot about somebody stealing your idea. Don't bother yourself about it. The question is, how well can the person execute it the way you can execute it? And how much impact can they make? If Mark Zuckerberg was not the first to get the idea of social media. He wasn't the first. Before him, there were other things that had come up. Did they become like Facebook? No. So the quality is really not in the idea. It's in who is executing it and the quality of the execution. So don't go through life being paranoid about somebody is stealing my idea, somebody is taking my idea. Idea is the cheapest thing to steal.
Thank you very much. So Marvin, let's move to Marvin. Mr. Marvin, somebody asked how to position yourself as a business person. Who do you talk to? Where do you go? What do you do? as a young developing business.
Yeah. So networking events is how you position yourself. Again, you have to build a network. If you go fishing, you could catch more fish with a net than you can with a fishing rod. But you have to become an attractive person to attract funding or the right people, right? And they will see it in you. And how they see it is by the words you use. And how they're going to know is, are you learning the skills, right? Because again, somebody could give you $100,000, $1 million, but do you know how to manage that money? So you will attract success by becoming a success, right? Other young lady said, you know, nobody wanted to give me a shot locally. Well, the Bible says, you know, a prophet is not loved in his own town until you go out, right? The people around you are never going to help you, but again, nobody owes us that, right? You start, again, you don't have to start to be perfect. You have to, I mean, you don't have to be perfect to start, but you have to start to be perfect. So how you attract and you position yourself is by knowing your business, knowing your KPIs, knowing your market, your demographic, knowing the information. And when you attract the right people and they hear you speak, they will know that you know what you're talking about because, again, they have the resources to give you. So they've been successful somehow. So they know, oh, by listening to the words you're saying, by understanding market share and things like that, they're like, okay, this person's ready. And they will give you the money. So that's how you position yourself, by becoming knowledgeable in your business, in your unique sector. And I assure you, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Oh, thank you very much. So Ivy, I think there were two questions. Somebody asked, as a creative, how can they be a better writer? Any guidance that you have? And the other question was that, how come we have good speakers, good orators, but we are not telling our stories very well as Africans, as blacks? So the first one is, what guidance, what advice will you give to a writer or a creative or somebody into media? And the second one is, how are we not able to tell our stories very well as Africans?
So for the writing, you just have to write. Keep writing, and you can join. I don't know if you're familiar. Who was it that I'm looking for him? Who asked? Okay, he's right there. For the writing, there's a website called Medium. I don't know if you've heard of it. Medium, M-E-D-I-U-M, like medium size, Medium. The website is called Medium. And it's a website that a lot of writers use as a tool to write. And when you write consistently, your stories could end up getting recommended based on the stories you're telling. So you could be telling stories from Ghana on Medium, and then you could be known as an expert. Recently on Medium, I was doing a search for Ghana. There's not a lot of Ghana stories on Medium. It's a lot of North American and European. There's a few Africans, but there's not a lot of Ghana stories. So you could potentially write. So when you go to events, I don't know what type of writing you do, but if you do writing of like events or newsworthy stories, one of the things I used to do with my blog when I came to Ghana in 2011 was, if I went to an event like this, I would be taking my notes and I would write about it onto the blog. So you could write about this on Medium, and it will be a news story to say, you know, the African, you know, opportunities business forum, and just talk about the different speakers you saw and why this was important, why this is leveraging business opportunities in Ghana. So you could do things like that. When you go to an event, you go as if you are a reporter, and you are reporting on this event, and then you write about the event, because then you become a go-to source of information of what's happening in Ghana. When with me telling stories through my blog and then shifting over to using YouTube, people started looking for my stuff for information. That's how Ghana Tourism Authority even heard of me, because I was already doing videos about Ghana before I got my interview with them. I wasn't out there looking for them, but they saw my work. So when you put your work out there, somebody will eventually see, and people will eventually reach out to you. So my advice to you is just keep writing. Find communities of writers. So Facebook has a lot of really good groups. whether it's writing or any other creative group, when you join, you see what other people are doing, you hear about different things, you get ideas, and you get a chance to have conversations through the chats, through posts people may make that help you to grow and learn as a writer. So that's my advice. Just keep on writing stories from Ghana and be consistent with the storytelling. And find a way to kind of brand yourself, if you want to brand yourself in a certain way, if there's a name you call yourself, or if you want to start a website. The only thing is some people don't have the budget to start websites, so you can just use blogs like Blogger or WordPress, or you can even use LinkedIn. I don't know if you use LinkedIn, but on LinkedIn, if you switch your LinkedIn account to a creator account, you can write newsletters. And when you have newsletters, you get people who subscribe to your newsletter. And then every week or every day or every month, whatever frequency you have the capacity to do, you release a newsletter. And then people can read it and people can subscribe to your newsletter. And then as you keep publishing, you end up becoming like an expert. I know somebody who did a newsletter. She did it for like 10 years consistently, you know. Now she's somebody that people go to write books, you know, to write stories. So the more consistently you do something, the more people will start to see your work and look for you. I hope that helps. And for the how do we tell stories from Africa, like we have a lot of traditional stories, I think we should just start. Because I've gone to so many events that are on film and television, and we talk a lot about some of our folk stories, some of our historical tales that were passed down generation to generation, and how those stories are not being told. Don't be afraid to collaborate. I think that's one of our big weaknesses in Ghana, is we don't collaborate enough. Everybody wants to have their shine and don't realize that when you work collectively as a group, you can actually have more growth. Like, I'm the CEO of my company. I'm the one that started this. I'm the one that started that. People don't want to work together. I met a Nigerian who came to Ghana 2019, Accra Fashion Week. I was speaking on a panel, and the man had been in Ghana like 2 days. And he said, "This is my first time in Ghana, and I've noticed Ghanaians don't like to collaborate. Is that true?" He's like, that's the sense that he gets from the conversations he had after 2 days. You know, and I was like, well, you know, it's true from what I see that we don't collaborate with each other enough. So if we want to tell these traditional stories, we have to collaborate. You might have somebody who's a good writer who will put that story on paper, somebody who could be the person who can pitch it to a production company who may want to film it or may want to do a theatrical production on stage. So we have to work together as a team in order to get our stories out there. Right now, people are looking for African content. They are looking for African content. That's why Netflix has invested heavily in having Netflix in Africa, although now their focus is Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa. Ghana was left off the list. We need to push to create our content to show them that we have the capacity to do it. So just know that people are looking for African stories, so you need to tell those stories. If it's an animation, you can look for somebody who animates to animate these stories. Yesterday I was at Parabel's studios, and they do animations of traditional stories from Ghana. So working together and seeking out other creatives who have like minds to come together to do it. I think that's the best thing, is working as a team.
All right, put your hands together for her. Mr. Boabe, so there was a question to you about managing risk. How can you manage risk as a business person or an entrepreneur?
I think that the subject of risk is a very broad subject, and because risk can come in various dimensions. But for many young entrepreneurs or startup entrepreneurs, the biggest thing you can do to mitigate your risk is to sit down and study. Sit down and study. Because of the age or dispensation which we are, a lot of us are in a hurry to go out there and tell people that we are doing stuff. But we don't know how to sit down in our privacy and build capacity. So sometimes, one of my companies is a publishing company. Sometimes somebody can come to you, they're in a hurry to do a book cover of a book they are yet to write. They want to do a book cover so they can go and announce on Facebook that they are writing the book. But you need to learn how to sit down and study. There are many people who say they want to be entrepreneurs. They've not read 1,000 pages on entrepreneurship. They know nothing about finance. They know nothing about strategy. They know nothing about marketing. They know nothing about operations. And that person is in the marketplace shouting that I have no one to help me. You aren't even helping yourself. Who help you? So the biggest thing you can do to mitigate risk is to sit down. Learn how to sit down, study stuff, study finance, study management, study operations, read stuff. I use ChatGPT. I have ChatGPT on my phone. And sometimes in my spare moment, I just pick ChatGPT and start asking a question. ChatGPT, explain GDP to me. Explain GMP. Explain the time value of money. Explain the key principles of business finance. And I'm just reading them. These are things I may be familiar with or I might have forgotten. But I just keep reading to build my knowledge base, because if you don't remember anything from what I've said today, remember that there's first the entrepreneur, then the enterprise. The strength of the enterprise is dependent on the strength of the entrepreneur. What does he know? What are his skills? How does he understand finance? How does he understand marketing? How does he understand business? Because if you are weak, your enterprise will be weak. So the biggest thing you can do to mitigate your risk as an entrepreneur is to learn. Don't be ignorant. Sit down. Read. Don't be in a hurry to come to social media and scream about something that you are doing. Learn how to sit down. Keep quiet. Read. Study. Understand the key things. Where you don't have experience, you can make up for it with knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Mr. Marvin, yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I just want to add something to that. Also, you want to get mentors, people who've done it before you, right? You want to study people who failed. You could learn from people who did it wrong, the same way you can learn from people who did it right. The reason why companies have a board, more times than not, the board of directors is people who've been successful in areas that you're aspiring to be in. So you want to get mentors, you want to get people on your board so that you could get advice and get direction from them. And if you do that, that's how you mitigate the risk, because the road that you're walking down, these people have walked down before you, so they can help you avoid certain pitfalls. The best money you could spend is in your self-education, and then also in consultation of people that can help you avoid certain pitfalls. So, mentors.
Thank you very much. So the final question before we wrap up, Nanette asked about the system oppressing people. So growing up, how there are boundaries, maybe in your family, in your school, in your church. You want to be a lawyer, doctor, and people laugh at you, people prevent you. Have you ever seen a lawyer from this community, a doctor? How do you fight such a system? Is there a way that you can incentivize yourself? What do you do in a system like Ghana that people pull him down? So I think anybody can answer that question.
Okay, so I'll answer quickly and then pass the mic. There's a great book that I read about a gentleman by the name of Ordinary, and it's called The Dream Giver. And it's about this guy, Ordinary, who's on his way to become successful, and he meets his border bullies, people telling him why he can't achieve what he wants to achieve. And his border bullies, surprisingly enough, was everybody who already knew him. His mother, his father, his grandmother. And everybody had different reasons, not because they were malicious, but the father didn't want Ordinary to go on this journey because the father attempted the journey and he failed. The mother didn't want Ordinary to go on the journey because he was her baby. And the grandmother didn't want Ordinary to go on this journey because she watched her son fail and she saw the heartbreak that he had. So different people are going to have different reasons why they tell you, you can't make it, you can't do it. But for a lot of people, when they say, I don't think you could do it, is because what they're really saying is, I don't think I could do that, so because I can't do it, I don't believe that you could do it, right? So you just have to believe in yourself, educate yourself, and the more information you have through education, the more confident you will be. And that's the best way.
That was the last question.
Yes. Yeah, that was the last question.
I agree. I agree. I think you have to have confidence in yourself as well, because when you have confidence in yourself and you believe that you have the ability to do the thing that it is you said you want to do that people around you are saying you can't, that's the way that you're going to get through it. Because I do hear a lot of stories of people saying, I know somebody personally who told me she went all through medical school, she became a doctor, even though she knew that's not what she wanted to do. She went through all of it just so that she can check the boxes of her family. And then she worked as a doctor just for, I think, a couple of years. Then she left and decided to go into what she really wanted to be doing. So I think that that's a lot of time that was lost on her part in pursuing what she really wanted to pursue. So don't allow the people around you saying you can't do something to convince you you can't, because you know deep down inside what you're capable of. There's so many people in this world who went ahead and did things that their families didn't think they could do. And then when they did it, those same people are the ones who are like giving them high fives and coming to them for money. I know somebody who left banking, here in Ghana, left banking to go into farming, and the family was like, why? Why are you going to the farm, you know? And the man now makes more money, way more money in farming than he ever did working in the bank. So if you have a vision to do something, just do it despite what other people are saying.
Yeah. Mr. Bobbing, yeah.
I've realized that most people don't think deeply about the things they say. So you can have a conversation with somebody and tell them about a business you want to go into, and they rubbish the idea very quickly and talk very confident like they know what they are saying, but they're not thinking. They're just talking. So if you're going to do well in life, you have to believe in what you are doing more than anybody else. Believe in what you're doing more than anybody else. Because if you don't believe in what you want to do, somebody will just make a flippant comment that they didn't mean. I remember, so my first company started in Kaswa. I moved into a chamber and hall, self-contained, and my house was a chamber, and my office was a hall. And I stayed there for about 2 years, and I had my own ambition. I said, I want to move my business to an office in Accra. And then one of my friends, he's a good friend, and I know that he didn't mean ill, said that I should stay in Kaswa and grow the business there. And I did not. And when I moved to Accra, he was one of the first people to visit. And when he came to the office, he was very excited, and he said that this will be your next level. I was confused. That's a good friend of mine. I love him so much. I know he loves me so much. But it taught me something. Most people don't think really hard about the things they say to you. So if you're going to let people sway you based on their comments, you won't go very far. Just make up your mind what you want to do and do it.
Wow. Just make up your mind what you want to do and do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, the conversation has been very educative, very, very enlightening. And I know everybody took something out of this conversation, experiences from our great speakers. We wish we could continue the conversation and speak over and over, but today may be the first and only time we are meeting our speakers. Whatever thing that you heard from them, let it be that seed that will push you to drive your business. Put your hands together once again for them. So, thank you very much. Let's take a brief photograph, then we'll take our closing remarks from the CEO of the African Transformational Project. So, photograph, very brief. Put your hands together and keep clapping for them. So, who is taking the picture? Okay, is the photographer ready? Where's the photographer when you need him? He's yet to come. Okay, okay, sure. So we'll take it. Okay, yeah, we can use a phone or something to take. Put your hands together for our speakers. Thank you very much. A lot has been said, a lot to learn. So let me welcome the MC on stage to continue the rest of the program. Bella, put your hands together for her.
Our speakers deserve another round of applause. Please, let's give it up for them. They've really done well. If you've been here since morning, I believe you know that you've never wasted your time. This is a lifetime opportunity, one in a million. And so, I appreciate you all. The team appreciates everyone that made time to come. We would invite Ms. Rosemary to give us the closing remarks, and then we wrap up today's program. As Ms. Rosemary makes her way here, we would still appreciate our partners because they are also part of the success of today's program. We have African Transformational Project, Ghana Tourism Authority, Ghana Investment Promotion Center, we have Asana Pay, Beyond the Return, and then Grow, Unite, Build Africa Diaspora Network. Ms. Rosemary.
Hello, everyone. I'll say a big thank you to the organizers, Africans Transformational Project. Okay. I'm saying a big thank you to the organizers, Africans Transformational Project. All our partners, we're saying a big thank you. Our speakers, Mr. Bobin, you've been with us from day one. I really appreciate. I'm not really familiar with the names of the other speakers, really pardon me, but I really appreciate your presence here. And our participants that have been with us from the beginning of the program, I really appreciate you. You can testify that this has been a great program. It has been very enlightening and educating. Thank you so much. We hope to see you next year. Hopefully, it's in the pipeline. We hope to move around the country and hopefully other African countries as well. So thank you all for coming and have a blessed day. Thank you.
Okay, so very few announcements here on my desk. So we have AfTP souvenirs available at the registration table just outside when you move there. And you could see some of our volunteers in T-shirts, some are in gray, black, white. They go for a cool 60 Ghana cedis. Please grab it before you leave here. At least leave the place with a souvenir, 60 cedis. I know some of you will buy and even buy more for people that didn't make it for today's program. Okay, sure. Also, after the event, there will be brief photography sessions. Mr. Asa would give us the lineup on how the photography is supposed to be done. So we are wrapping up. Thank you all for making time for today's program. We appreciate you all. And we hope to see you next year. And next year, if you are coming, please don't come alone. Don't be selfish. Come along with someone to also gain lots of insight, because there's a difference between hearing it like in person and someone telling you like a reported speech. You can't give the full details. So please, if you don't want to explain tire, bring someone along so that the person also gets insight into it. We would invite Ms. Deborah Na to give us the closing prayer as we end today's program. Please, let's give it up for Miss Deborah.
We are praying. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be gathered here today. We thank you for everything we've learned. We thank you because even as we leave here, we receive the strength and the grace to go and do as we have learned. We thank you for our wonderful speakers. We ask that you bless them, and we also pray that you grant all of us journey mercies back to our destinations. In Jesus' name we've prayed. Amen.
So once again, thank you all for coming. We hope to see you next year. Don't forget to at least take a contact, exchange pleasantries with someone, make a connection before you get out of this auditorium. And like I said, there's a brief photography session here with our speakers. So if you'd want to join in, you'd follow the protocols and take it from there. Thank you very much. Safe journey to wherever everyone is coming from.
So, guys, we'll be very quick with the photographs. We don't really want to bore our speakers. So, Lawrence, we'll be very, very brief with the pictures. Yeah, I think the stage. Or should we use the pull-up? Let me add. So, guys, we'll take the photographs out. Guys, please. Yes, you meet the volunteers, they'll direct you. So, please, the speakers, guys. So, the speakers, let's not strain them. The speakers have to go out because they'll frustrate them too much. Because you have to take the. I should use ladies and gentlemen.